No need to go through a lengthy hiring process. According to Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, they established a firm contractual succession plan in a prior contract and communicated that to the NFL. So Jerod Mayo takes over. It was in his contract that he was going to take over for Bill Belichick. Did Bill Belichick know that it was in Jerod Mayo's contract that he was going to succeed Bill Belichick? I think it was a total of 10 minutes when Robert Kraft, Mr. Kraft, those in the business like to call him, and Bill Belichick. An entire career. That's, Bill, why don't you talk a little bit? And then, Robert, you talk a little bit, and then we'll wrap it up there. That's it. There's no farewell tour. There's none of that. But if you're Belichick, I'll go back to the interview I did with Tom Brady at the Super Bowl when the Patriots lost to the Eagles. And prior to that game, during the week, I got a chance to sit down with Brady for about 20 minutes. And at one point, I asked him, I said, do you ever see you and Bill Belichick getting together when this is all said and done? And you're going to open up the scrapbook. And he looked at me and he paused and he goes, no. No, that'll never happen. Now, could it happen? Sure. But at the time, Tom was saying that's not what he does. He doesn't open up the scrapbook and reminisce, and probably is not going to be comfortable doing that anytime soon because he's on to his next job. And that's the Patriots were on to their next coach. Belichick is on to his next job. And that's why it was 10 minutes. Let's kind of go through the motions here. Nobody's asking any questions. We say nice things about each other. So we've had a couple of these here, where Seattle with Pete Carroll, kind of nice. And, hey, we going to keep you in the franchise maybe, and an advisor, even though he still wanted to coach. Mike Vrabel, that was not the case. By the way, what's more surprising? Jerod Mayo got the job or Mike Vrabel didn't get the job. I don't even know if they talked to Mike Vrabel. Well, why would they talk to Mike Vrabel if it's in Jerod Mayo's contract? He's getting the job when Bill Belichick moves on. Well, it still comes down to this. If you are going to fire your coach, who are you hiring? New England knew what they were doing. They had Jerod Mayo, and they, had no other question marks. He's been in the organization. He played for the Patriots, and he had been there as an assistant coach. And they're, judging from the fallout here from a lot of people, a lot of players, current and former players, they made the right call. And I said that yesterday. If you're going to replace Bill Belichick, are you bringing in somebody? The only other name you could bring in, I think, that people would go, okay, he's ready for that job was Mike Vrabel, because he was a Patriot, went back there, got honored by the Patriots during the season. But Jerod Mayo, to me, was now we realize it's a rebuild. And now we have a young coach. I think he's 37. And you're going to have a rookie coach, and you're probably going to have a rookie quarterback in there. Let's grow together. Mike Vrabel's going in, and all of a sudden my expectation level was a lot higher. With Jerod Mayo, I think everybody realizes now you have a rebuild here. It'll take a little bit of time. Instead of Vrabel's coming in, we expect to be in the playoffs. Now, they can say that publicly they expect to be in the playoffs. I think realistically, they know that they got a 2-year rebuild here to try to figure this out. Buffalo's still going to be good. Miami's still going to be good. The Jets might figure this out. New England's got to keep pace with them. But Jerod Mayo, I like the call. The defense has been really good for the Patriots. Really good. Consistent. Now the question is, what are you going to do at the quarterbacking position? Yes, Eden.
It's funny, but like Paul was just saying off air, the current coaches are becoming more fireable based on who's currently available to coach. Like Bill Belichick being theoretically available to coach now makes somebody, well, maybe we do get rid of him.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's somebody who really loves Mike Vrabel, and they're like, absolutely, I'd take him.
Yeah, I would think that there are a couple of coaches that probably could exhale a month ago who can't exhale now if they happen to lose. And Mike McCarthy, could you imagine if Mike McCarthy loses this game? And I think you have to do this what if, because we're seeing the possibilities of coaches being fired or they move on. And now you have Mike Vrabel out there, you have Pete Carroll out there, and you have Bill Belichick out there. We've never had this before. We'll never have coaches with this kind of resume all available at the same time. Just not going to. And you got an 81-year-old owner in Dallas. I don't think he would hesitate in pulling the trigger here. You bring in Bill Belichick. Dan Quinn probably leaving the Cowboys. Maybe, he goes back to Seattle as their head coach. But there are openings. But there's certain openings where you go, Pete Carroll in Carolina. Pete Carolina. See what I did with that?
Okay.
See what, Todd?
Very nice, very nice.
See what I did with that? Atlanta with Bill Belichick, which I can't process that. It's just like, that's weird. You got the Chargers job. And then, if Philly loses in Tampa, even though they're favored, do you pull the trigger on a coach who took you to the Super Bowl the previous year? And then you have Dallas. I mean, there are a couple of interesting situations here where you have to, and Buffalo. Buffalo, they righted the ship because there was a moment in time where we thought, uh-oh, they're not even going to make the playoffs, but a first-round exit, double-digit favorite at home? Yes, Marvin.
If Dallas loses, will you be surprised if Mike McCarthy keeps his job?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Jerry was patient to a fault, but I think he kept coaches like Jason Garrett because Jerry was able to, and being fair to Jason, manipulate. Maybe he was more of a head coach than he would have been with somebody else who had a bigger personality. But, Jerry's the GM, he's the owner, and he's the guy who does all the interviews, and he's the coach. In his mind, he's probably the de facto coach. I'm going to answer for everything, personnel decision, everything. He's involved in that. And I think, given Mike McCarthy, I think Jerry probably still feels that, hey, I can massage the situation here. Until, if you don't win, then does he go back to a big personality? I think we've waited for that. If you're a Cowboy fan, like Jimmy Johnson was a big personality. Bill Parcells a big personality. But then Jerry shied away from that. And even Mike McCarthy is not a big personality. He's got a very good resume. But Jerry, would he make that move? I think you factor in the talent on the roster, Jerry's age, and I think that he would probably bring in a new shiny object. Yes, Eaton.
And Mike McCarthy's sort of perpetually been on the hot seat. I don't know that his seat has ever necessarily cooled all that much since he got there.
Well, also, if he's the reason why you lose, if there's a late game decision, clock management, we've already seen this in previous postseason games for them. That, yeah, I think so. I don't know about Buffalo because it felt like, okay, Sean McDermott may be on the hot seat to, nope, everything's good. No, they're playing well. You don't want to, face them in the playoffs, but you're favored by 10 points at home against Pittsburgh. With the weather a factor, but a factor that's positive probably for Buffalo to be playing at home. Although they've talked about moving that game to Cleveland. Now, I'm trying to understand this because the NFL did deny it, but there was a rumor in Pittsburgh, not a report, that the NFL was considering moving that game from Buffalo because of the weather to Cleveland. And if you look at the mileage between the two cities, it's less than 200 miles from Buffalo to Cleveland, Pittsburgh to Cleveland. But what about the Buffalo fans who have tickets to the game who are then driving in a snowstorm, which to me doesn't make any sense? A team can get in there. I got 60, 70,000 fans. Now they're going to go to Cleveland? How are they getting to Cleveland? And shouldn't we be concerned about the fans as well? Yeah, Marvin.
And if the Bills lose, I could just hear Bills fans now. We lost the home game to Mason Rudolph and no TJ Watt.
Yes, you're right about that.